A Mossad jet lands in Doha. Could this undercover mission tip the balance between war and peace in Gaza? Miss what happens next, and you risk missing the turning point for the entire Middle East. On a Thursday that seemed routine, a private jet connected to Israel's top spy agency quietly arrives in Qatar's capital. But this is no ordinary visit. Mossad Director David Barnea is here, his first time since last month's failed talks, a move igniting rumors of a decisive breakthrough in the shadowy Gaza negotiations. Barnea's mission is wrapped in secrecy, yet the stakes are unmistakable. Reuters reveals he's meeting the Qatari Prime Minister to revive peace talks stalled for weeks, while the Times of Israel reports that Israel is now refusing partial deals and demanding a sweeping agreement that could rewrite the conflict's future. Everything hangs in the balance. If these hidden talks collapse, the war could intensify. Hostages might remain trapped, and the reputations of Israel, Qatar, and the United States could suffer irreparable harm. Behind the scenes, Egypt, Turkey, and the United States maneuver for influence. Israel's leaders publicly reject minor deals, but push the military to accelerate gains in Gaza City. All eyes turn to Doha, where one conversation could pull the region back from disaster or push it deeper into chaos. But what exactly brought Barnea to Doha at this critical hour? The answer reveals a web of pressure, diplomacy, and risk. Gaza's war has drawn in unlikely mediators, and Qatar is at the center of this hidden web. The recent arrival of Mossad Chief David Barnea in Doha is not just another diplomatic meeting. It signals a dramatic shift in the secretive world of Gaza ceasefire talks. For months, the war has seemed gridlocked, with official negotiations stalling and public statements growing fiercer. But behind closed doors, a far more complex game is unfolding, with Qatar quietly acting as a crucial broker among bitter rivals. Unlike previous rounds, this moment is different. The United States, Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar are all racing to craft a comprehensive deal, according to reports from Axios. While Egypt is intensifying contacts with all parties to overcome disputes and secure a ceasefire to end the war, as Egyptian officials confirm, Israel is choosing to work through its most secretive channel, the Mossad, rather than traditional diplomats. Qatar's involvement stands out because it has ties to both sides that few others can claim. On one hand, Doha hosts Hamas leaders and has funneled humanitarian aid into Gaza for years. On the other, it maintains open dialogue with the United States and even Israel's intelligence services, making it an indispensable bridge in a region defined by distrust. That is why, when negotiations in Cairo hit a wall, the secret Mossad jet landing in Doha sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles. Meanwhile, Qatar has not shied away from strong words. Just days ago, the Qatari government strongly condemned Israel's plan to seize full control of the Gaza Strip, a move many see as a direct threat to any peace process. Yet, even as Qatar publicly criticizes Israel, it is quietly working behind the scenes to keep talks alive, showing the double-edged nature of its role. Hamas, too, has recognized how vital these mediators are, publicly thanking Egypt for its efforts and expressing a willingness to quickly return to a ceasefire, negotiations, and calm. But fundamental issues remain unresolved. Among the thorniest, whether Hamas will agree to disarm as part of any new deal, a sticking point highlighted by the Jerusalem Post. The stakes could not be higher. If outside observers ignore the tangled roles of regional mediators like Qatar, they risk missing the subtle leverage and motivations that could either break the deadlock or deepen the conflict. With every step, the credibility of the world's powers, the fate of hostages, and even global energy markets hang in the balance. But why has Mossad, Israel's shadowy spy agency, taken such an unusual front seat, especially when official channels seemed frozen? To understand this, we need to look at the secret back channels and personal rivalries shaping these negotiations. Behind the headlines, a hidden power struggle threatens to upend the Gaza talks. If Israel's factions cannot unite, hundreds of hostages and the entire region's stability are at risk. Not all Israeli leaders agree. Secret rifts, dropped deals, and the Mossad's renegade approach are reshaping the negotiations from behind closed doors. Inside Israel, a battle over strategy is erupting. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet has just voted to pursue a full takeover of Gaza City, a move that could lock Israel into a drawn-out conflict or dramatically redefine its security. In a recent press conference, Netanyahu hinted that partial deals are now off the table, fueling dangerous tensions within his own government. These divisions run deep. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich calls any partial deal a threat to Israel's future, while Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer warns that even a temporary pause could make it impossible to restart combat if needed. This split sows doubt among allies and weakens Israel's negotiating position on the world stage. Meanwhile, the Mossad is playing its own high-stakes game. Mossad Chief David Barnea's sudden trip to Doha was officially framed by an Israeli political source as being about Mossad-related matters, not regarding the negotiations for a hostage deal. Yet, according to reports from the Jerusalem Post, Barnea used these secret meetings to confirm to Qatari officials that a partial hostage deal is now completely off the table. Israel's focus has shifted. Only a comprehensive agreement matters. No half measures, no piecemeal releases. But the intrigue runs even deeper. Even within the Mossad, confusion and mistrust have surfaced. A former Mossad official was recently exposed for having undisclosed business ties with Qatar, sparking alarm among Israeli security officials. Whispers persist that some of these back-channel connections operate without full government oversight, raising the urgent question, who truly controls Israel's diplomatic playbook? The international stakes could not be higher. One wrong move might doom the remaining hostages, trigger a surge in violence, or shatter the fragile trust linking Israel and its key allies. As Mossad's chief meets with the Qatari prime minister, and Egypt and Qatar scramble to draft a new proposal, the fate of hundreds of lives and the future of Middle East peace hangs by a thread. But what exactly is happening inside these closed-door meetings, and why is Mossad suddenly taking the lead? To understand the next chapter, we need to follow the secret channels that could determine the fate of the entire region. The next 48 hours could decide if Gaza's war ends or explodes into something even bigger. As Mossad chief David Barnea met with the Prime Minister of Qatar in Doha, the world watched for signals that a long-awaited breakthrough was near. Barnea's arrival on a jet previously linked to the Mossad marks not just another round of talks, but a dramatic reboot with shadow deals and fragile alliances hanging in the balance. As one official put it, a breakthrough in Cairo could shift key discussions to Doha. This is a moment where secret channels and public statements collide, and where even insiders admit to being left in the dark about the true scope of negotiations. On one hand, optimism flickers. Egyptian and Qatari mediators are racing to refine a comprehensive deal that would halt fighting, free hostages, and potentially reshape Gaza's immediate future. The latest proposals, under discussion for several days in both Cairo and Doha, include Hamas's demand for a written agreement with international guarantees against renewed fighting. Simultaneously, Israel insists that only a full deal is on the table, with partial arrangements, like staged hostage releases, now explicitly ruled out by Barnea himself. But the risks are immense. Qatar has warned that Israel's planned takeover of Gaza City, where more than 1 million civilians are sheltering, undermines efforts to secure a ceasefire. In the background, intense talks over ceasefire, hostage exchanges, and Hamas's possible disarmament are underway, with mediators scrambling to prevent total Israeli occupation of Gaza. If these negotiations collapse, the humanitarian disaster could deepen rapidly. More hostages might die. The fighting could spill further across the region, destabilizing neighboring countries and drawing in global powers. Released hostages urge Trump to end the war and make a hostage deal. "You have the power to be the president of peace," one headline pleads, underscoring the desperation and high global stakes. Shadow deals. Arrangements never fully revealed to the public may determine who holds power in the next phase, not only in Gaza, but across the Middle East. Some Israeli officials, even within Mossad, reportedly have business or personal ties to Qatari figures, further complicating the web of loyalties and agendas. For Egypt and Qatar, their credibility as peace brokers is on the line. For Israel, the outcome will shape its security and reputation for years. For Hamas, survival and legitimacy hang in the balance. If a deal is struck, the region could see a fragile calm, a potential blueprint for future agreements, and a chance to address the humanitarian crisis. But if talks fail, expect more chaos, international backlash, and a possible cascade of violence beyond Gaza's borders. So, what can we, as outside observers, actually learn, and even apply, from this clandestine diplomatic chess game? Let's break down the hidden tactics and lessons from this high-stakes negotiation and see what they reveal about modern diplomacy in crisis. The Mossad's Doha gamble exposes sharp lessons about negotiation leverage and the dangers of opaque diplomacy. First, this episode is a masterclass in how power is projected not through brute strength alone, but through carefully managed trust and access. Mossad Chief David Barnea's sudden trip to Qatar, confirmed by multiple sources, was not just about getting a deal done, it was about keeping doors open where public channels have slammed shut. As one senior official put it, the Mossad chief's trip to Qatar was not focused on a hostage deal, but it did come up. This kind of ambiguity, whether intentional or not, is itself a negotiation tactic. Second, we see how unofficial actors can upend the best-laid plans. Reports reveal an ex-Mossad official provided services to Qatar while on Israel's own hostage talks team, with Haaretz noting, the Mossad was reportedly unaware of the ex-official's contacts with Qatar, despite his claim that he had informed the agency. Shadow players like these, operating outside official oversight, can shift the balance of trust or even derail critical efforts. The practical takeaway is this. In any high-stakes negotiation, whether global or personal, recognizing hidden motives and shadow actors isn't optional. When communication is murky, or when participants have ties you do not fully grasp, your leverage can evaporate overnight. The risk is real. Misreading these signals or failing to spot the unofficial channels can undermine even the most well-meaning efforts. For anyone watching these talks or facing their own tough negotiations, the warning signs are clear. Who's really at the table? Do all players have aligned interests, or are some operating with unseen agendas? And, just as in the Gaza crisis, are there actors in the room, or, just beyond it, who hold more power than those in the spotlight? So, with so much at stake, here's what you need to ask as these talks unfold, and as the next crisis emerges. As negotiations shift into their next phase, the real question is, who truly shapes the outcome? Those on camera, or those working the shadows? Let's look closer at the hidden hands steering the fate of the region. Why are secret jets landing in the dead of night? And what could we lose if we ignore what's happening behind closed doors? When Mossad Chief David Barnea appears in Qatar's palaces, it is not just another negotiation. It is the start of a new, undisclosed power play. This is a high-stakes reset where back-channel messages flash between Tel Aviv, Doha, Cairo, and Washington, shaping events far from the public eye. Israel stands firm, no deal with a total ceasefire and the release of every hostage. But as Barnea meets Qatar's prime minister, leaks and denials swirl. Partial agreements are dismissed in public while secret frameworks are hashed out. American officials pressure Qatar to remain involved, underlining that entire global strategies now hinge on clandestine intermediaries. Egypt ramps up its own efforts, bringing Hamas leaders to the table and drafting broad proposals. Yet, as Qatar and Egypt jockey for influence, with Turkey and the United States applying pressure, the real story is buried beneath layers of public posturing. Hamas demands written assurances. Israel accelerates military moves, and both sides accuse each other of sabotaging peace. Every covert flight, every whispered negotiation could tip the balance between more violence or an elusive peace. If we accept official statements at face value, we risk missing who truly pulls the strings, leaving global security, energy markets, and innocent lives in the hands of hidden actors. As these secret summits decide the region's future, one question remains: who gains from the silence? And what price might we all pay for believing the official story? In our next segment, we break down the key players and reveal how their secret moves could impact the entire world. Stay tuned to see how these covert talks might change the course of history.